So, sorry, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. I will do my best here with not proper technology, but I think we just have an hour set aside, so we will just go ahead and get started. And actually, I can't see everybody so well, so Elsa, you may need to help me a bit because I'm doing this on the iPhone. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve, did I just say minutes or agenda? Jeez.
You just did minutes.
The agenda for today's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, terrific. Commissioners, can you please acknowledge that you've reviewed public comments included in the spreadsheet that's been shared, and that filters in public comment through a bunch of different sources. Since I can't see you with a thumbs up, please say yes.
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 Okay, wonderful, thank you. So yeah, I'm becoming flexible on how I'm doing these things. It's losing one sense, sort of. Okay, so just quickly a little background before we open up to public comment, and we do have, I believe, a good number of people signed up today. As you know, the Commission has made 4 initial maps available to the public, and we wanted to include public conversation from the very beginning. These maps are drafted as a starting point of discussion, and they're based on the Seattle Charter mandated rules, which, paraphrasing, include same population by 1%, must be compact and contiguous when practical, should follow existing districts, geographic boundaries, and consider current communities and neighborhoods. And as explained by our GIS consultant in a previous meeting, the maps were drafted in a spectrum going from computer generated to humanly manipulated. And again, just a starting point to generate discussion. And we're going to have lots more conversation through various kinds of public forums. And we're also going to be improving on the maps, and soon we should have an interactive map where the public will be able to see many more details, including streets and demographics and race. So with that, I would like to open it up to public comment. And I think that we have about 8 people signed up. And Elsa, if you could help me out, since I can't see that screen, and maybe just start at the top and we can start our public comment.
Yes, and just some people did signed up, but we haven't heard whether they indeed are going to be participating, but we'll just call out the names. So we have the first person that we had on the list, I don't know if they're here, Aaron Van Newland. I don't know if they're here. The second person, and which they're here, Steve Horvath. Please, I think we can unmute you. Yes. Yes, I think you are good to go, Steve. Steve, can you hear us? Oh no, another person with, let's see.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Challenges.
Please go ahead.
Webinar. Okay, thanks so much. I just also sent this in just prior to the meeting as well. So there's a physical copy of this communique to Elsa and Logan. Thanks, commissioners, for your service doing this public service. I wanted to mention that the 4 draft maps that have been presented on the redistricting webpage appear to me to further divide the representation for the 5 downtown Seattle neighborhoods. And the current districts, the way they're drawn, also divide downtown into more than one district. And it's really not clear why that is, because the City of Seattle's comprehensive plan on page 258 very clearly elucidates that downtown Seattle is a single urban center. And there are lots and lots of plans related to what downtown is. There are over 40,000 people that live here. And to be honest, downtown has been impacted. Every part of the city has been impacted in different ways by different things that go on, whether it's pandemic or transportation or whatever it may be. But the recognition of downtown as this contiguous piece of an urban center that's made up of Belltown, the CID, the Commercial Court, Denny Triangle, and Pioneer Square seems like it would lend itself to being within a single council district. And as I've had this conversation with some other folks that live downtown, they've actually commented that they saw this process with further division of downtown as a sort of gerrymandering of the voice of downtown residents. So I just wanted to leave you with this thought that perhaps it would be possible to include downtown in a single council district in order to best represent the interests that downtown Seattle has, because it's been contemplated by the city as a single contiguous urban center. Thanks very much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question of the speaker?
Yes, please go ahead.
Steve, Greg Nichols here. Could you define, or maybe your written remarks define what you mean by downtown Seattle, which neighborhoods specifically you'd like to see together?
Yes, Commissioner Nichols, that is part of the written comment, and it is it is defined in the if anybody just Googles up the comprehensive plan, it's on page 258. I think it depends on which page number you're looking at, the one that PDF shows you or the one that the web page shows you. But okay. You'll find it there. It's 5 specific neighborhoods, and I don't think it's going to change. It's been this way for years, and this is the comprehensive plan that goes until 2035. So it seems like downtown is here to stay in its current form.
Great, thank you, Steve.
Sure.
And I'd like to respond to Mr. Horvath and to anyone who's submitting public comments. I would be really interested to see a map. So if you have the capacity to go on Dave's redistricting app and draw a map that would make the most sense from your perspective for downtown, I think that would be a really interesting piece of information for us to review.
Thank you, both of you, for that. Elsa, who else has signed up for public comment?
Yes, hold on. I moved to send the email and then I lost it. Hold on just a second. So the next person would be Lawrence Petre. I don't see them on the... I don't have them there. The next person is Joseph Lackman. David Desberg. Deetra Segar. Maya Kroll, Ashley.
It looks like Maya is in the meeting.
Yes, and just for your knowledge, we did send out emails letting people know that they would be called out. So Maya, are you able to speak and give your public comment at this moment? If you are there, you can unmute yourself. Maya, are you going to be able to join us for public comment? Can you hear us? The next person I have in line is Brent Mcfarlane. And that's everyone on the list.
Is there anybody else who didn't sign up in advance who would like to give public comment? Else there. Can you guys see me on the screen? I'm in this very odd thing where I'm listening on my phone and still trying to hook up on the computer.
Yes, we can see you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I wonder, can you hear me through the computer, I wonder?
Can't tell what that is.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm afraid to hang up. So I'm just going to try to do this in this different way. Okay, it sounds like then we don't have anybody else for public comment at the moment. We can check back in at the end if we have time. So as we discussed last time, we're going to leave space for if any commissioner has a conflict of interest to disclose. If anyone has anything to disclose, they can do it at this time. Okay. Then I guess we are moving on to Elsa's outreach update.
Well, if you check the events tracker, we are on a good track of getting all these events scheduled. They're mostly going to be in April and at the end of it, but please make sure to check it like regularly, because we are chatting with different organizations and groups in the community, and they're wanting to have us come. And so we had our first session. It was with the Wallingford Community Council, and Commissioner Nichols was able to attend. I couldn't see that you were there because because I was like a regular panelist, and so I couldn't acknowledge that you were there. But it was the first try to just present. It was like an interesting combination of education. This is what the redistricting process is, and then my thoughts before the meeting with the organizers was like, let's give this first presentation and see if there's more space for a larger session. And what came out of there, and I'd like to get Commissioner Nichols to give your thoughts on the session, but what came out of there from the community was that folks wanted to do this quick one. Presentation was like a 20 minutes. This is what the process is. This is what the maps are. What are your thoughts? What's your community? What are the issues? And so people want to have that and then an outlet right away for them to give feedback. So we're putting together a survey that will say, what do you think about this? Give us your thoughts. And right there after those 20 minutes to give feedback, and then invite people to a follow-up, but maybe just directly to the district meeting in the summer. That was just what my thoughts. Commissioner Nichols, do you have thoughts on?
Sure. First of all, Elsa did a great job. Her presentation was at the right point between what a layperson is going to want to hear and learn from, and what a districting wonk is going to want to talk about. My perception, Elsa, was that the people, at least the people who engaged with questions and the like, were in the former category. They did not know the process. They had some interest in learning about it, but not getting really engaged in it, I thought. And I think that we're going to find a lot of that. There will be groups that'll be very much, policy wonks, districting wonks, and that's great. And we'll need to have a little bit different approach there. But I think for the most part, we don't really hit people in their homes. They feel okay about what district they're in now. They feel okay if we didn't mess around with that. But but beyond that, they don't, at least I think in these more general community council meetings, we're going to find that level of interest. And then there'll be obviously ones where they will be much more engaged, much more sophisticated in terms of what they know about the mapping process. So I thought it was a good introductory session, Elsa, and I thought your presentation hit the right mark in terms of a group that would include both groups of folks.
Thanks, Commissioner. So the next step is what we're doing is I'm sharing this presentation with the community-based organizations that we're starting to sign contracts with, and they will be also giving this presentation to the different communities, and we're doing the same with community liaisons. So as you can imagine, some groups are already formed are the ones who have reached out to us first. And they're already, they have dates, they have times, and they just want us to join in and show up and give the presentation. There are others where we are providing with more infrastructure and support to not only understand it in language, but also meet folks where they're at. For instance, some of the organizations were like, I honestly, how am I gonna have a conversation with our members if they're worried about the eviction and the rental eviction ending? And so who are we starting to engage? In taking from community council is we want to go with those community leaders that are already working on these issues, staff, board members, volunteers that work in these different organizations. And those are the folks that we want to have first this listening sessions, where we provide the information, the education, and then 15 to 20 people from those communities who are embedded in the work are the first ones who are going to be, we're going to be engaging in the process. And we'll see how that goes. We also had last week on Friday, our first community training with the Dave's Redistricting app. And we had community members attending. And Dave was actually the one who gave the training. It's recorded, we're uploading it. We're going to be doing some voiceover in language. And there were so many ideas on how can this help community groups draw their own maps. And so we're going to do like a 201 session uploaded, and just to help folks who are already organized identify those areas where they think they're problematic with the maps that they're proposed or that they want, they're currently happening, and what would they do. So we will be working this, we will upload that for people to just go and check them out whenever they're ready, but also working with CBOs and the CLs to make sure that they're available to take the training, and then they can provide that to their communities. Another thing that I learned, which was very exciting, I was reading about, there was a study that was done, I think by Stanford, of how many people actually is interested in the nation about redistricting. Is very little people who are interested in the nation about redistricting, as we all know. But so we were doing some analytics on our website to make sure how many people are going to our website. And so we learned that in the last month, for instance, we've had about 3,000 visits to our general website and about 75,000 clicks to different pages. And just to put it in context, the Department of Neighborhoods gets about 13,000 visits in a month. And that is an established website that's been going on. So it's a pretty good rate. So people are clicking. It's not just us updating it and finding information, but there's some level of engagement. Good to know. We are working more to update more, make it more friendly, and definitely on the language side, we're taking a lot of input from folks. Yes, it's good to have it there, but it's better to have a link to somebody who can explain to people in language what this is. And so that's what we're trying to focus our energy towards. And so other than that, any questions, suggestions that you have heard, seen, or would like to see on this outreach effort? I think that's a no.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I will note that I can't see other people besides who's speaking, so I can't see people raising their hands. I'm on a strange version of Zoom, but anyway, I can hear you and see your presentation. Let's move on to the update of the public engagement tool, the Citizen Lab. I know you just have a brief kind of overview that you want to share.
Oh, yes. I sent you all a link for, hopefully you get a chance to see it. We're working with this company. It's new, it's called Citizen Lab, and we are going to be incorporating, I was hoping that they could come and we can have a better update by this meeting, but we are actually not going to meet until next week, so we won't have anything ready yet. But this is a platform that will help us, for instance, what they call it a widget. It's a, so we are going to be able to upload all the public comments as they come, and they will be able to be on our website so people can see what people are talking about. We will be able to use their background app to analyze how public comment is coming and give you a summary of it. We will be able to upload the survey that we're asking people to comment on the maps onto their website as well. So you will have a backend analysis of what people are saying. And so the full on getting the public engaged, it will come until the second phase of our engagement. So May through July, once we have a more specific map or a proposal, not this 4 conversation maps. So by that time, we will use the platform completely, where we will have, this is the proposal, this is by district, these are the changes, at least that's how I'm envisioning, and then what does the public think? And so we will be able to use that and embed that platform into our website for everyone to see. But for now, what we will use, as we're already have a lot of work done, is we will have that summary of what, well, not summary, but it's almost like a live feeder that says what the public is saying, and then we'll be putting all the public comments there for the public to see, and then we will have the back-end analysis of the public comment for you. So I'm hoping that monthly we'll have something that you can see, like a summary of what we're hearing by district, by topics, by words, by demographics, if there's any information we can collect from there, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just my update. I apologize, we don't have something more specific for today, but
that's terrific. And Elsa and I had been having conversations about, we're getting and are going to be getting so much more really rich public comment. And then how do we make sure that we're able to see all that and analyze it and compile it and make something with so sort of a vast array of different types of public engagement. So we'll see how that tool works. Thank you.
So that actually brings up a question for me, Chair.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a good way of doing it because I can't see you raising your hand. Thank you.
Yeah. So in a couple meetings ago, we were having a discussion about maybe doing a meeting in each of the districts with the 4 maps, and then coming to 1 map, and then doing a meeting in each of the 7 districts with the 1 map. Did we ever come to a resolution on that, or was there a proposal that incorporated that idea?
I think the idea was that we had asked Elsa and the staff to see how that fits into the calendar of when they're scheduling all these events. But that was my understanding, is that we were going to aim to have the listening sessions, 1 round of forums, then try to get down to 1 map, and then go back to public forums. Elsa, I assume you're still working on sort of the master timeline. Is that your understanding of how we're working on?
Yeah, what I'm basically doing, Commissioner O'Sullivan, for time-wise is when in this presentation, what I did last week too, and what I'm going to do is I present 4 maps to each meeting for a reaction. And so we're getting comments from this 4 maps from the presentation I'm doing. So, and the meetings that we are setting up, as you can see in the tracker, they're pretty much by district. There are different groups in the same district. And so I'm thinking that we're accomplishing the goal of making sure that we get the public the comment that you wanted per seeing the spectrum. But let me know if you need anything more, because yeah, we won't be able to get one meeting specific by district. We'll just have different ones from the same district. Does that make sense?
I'm going to make the request again. My request is that staff prepare a timeline and a proposal that lets us have a district-specific meeting with the 4 maps, an opportunity for us to come to consensus on one proposed map, and then a district-specific meeting in each of the 7 districts with the 1 map. I would like staff to prepare a timeline that incorporates that so that we can consider that.
Maybe I need more clarification to make sure that I'm responding right. And I don't know if the rest of the commissioners have it clear. Yes. So
here's the charter itself requires that we have at least 1 meeting in each of the 7 districts. I would like to ensure that we have a district-specific meeting, so a meeting that is focused not on a group in the 1st district, but on the 1st district itself, with all 4 maps. A meeting in the 2nd district itself with all 4 maps. I want to make sure that before we come to a consensus on 1 map, that we have district-specific meetings in each of the 7 districts and get input from the district as a whole in each of the 7 districts. Then we have a time period where we're reaching consensus on a single proposed map, and then we take that map around to the 7 districts. So I would ask staff to prepare a proposed timeline that incorporates that.
Essentially, in April, I think we would need to have a district-specific forum that's different than a listening session, right? Is that where you're also a distinction that's more about getting feedback?
I mean, so
could you specify?
Yeah, I mean, we can call it a listening session or we can call it a forum. What we're doing, what I understand us to be doing right now is that we're engaging with different communities and different groups and different organizations, which is awesome, which we absolutely need to be doing. But I would also like to ensure that we're having a meeting, and whether we call it a forum or a listening session, I'm not super concerned about, but we have a meeting that is focused on each of the 7, 1 meeting for each of the 7 districts, where we're explicitly soliciting feedback on how each of those districts see the 4 versions of the map that have currently been presented, and that we do that prior to coming to a consensus ourselves on a proposed map that we can then take around to each of the 7 districts one more time.
That was my understanding as well, that we would have a timeline and see when it. I think there was a slight distinction earlier on between what we were calling a listening session and a forum. One being more explaining, like generally explaining what redistricting is and starting to make sure that everyone's educated about what this is all about, how it impacts their communities. And then the next phase, hoping that people are more prepared and able to provide more feedback to us. But I'm open to, how that works out.
So the 4 maps that have been prepared, I think, are terrific in terms of the fact that they have clearly given people something to think about and something to respond to. And so before we reach consensus among ourselves on a proposal, I want to make sure that we're hearing from each district as a district.
That makes sense to me, that the meetings that are set so far are sort of community or neighborhood specific versus the whole district, or many of the meetings. Do other commissioners have thoughts that they'd like to share? If so, please just go ahead and speak, because I can't see it right now.
I do have clarifying questions for this of the expectation. So the way in which we go and present this to the public, we can invite the community to come to an event just for the district. But what we've heard is that people are not ready to comment unless they have information about what redistricting is first in the process. And so that's what we're trying to cover right now, giving that information as well as offering and sharing what the proposals are. So I have shared what the 4 maps are, where they come from, and what they think of. The meetings that we're having are in different districts, as you can see. To have one meeting per district before we have the proposal, it's like, it's tricky calendar-wise, because who are you going to invite to this forums before we finished up the education piece and the sharing of this, like as a process? I'm having a hard time of when, and so in my proposal, in like original proposal, was that then in May, between May and July, that's when we would have an invitation for people to come and comment to whatever the commission has by then. For comments, but I want to be clear about how do you think we should invite people for district to one meeting as we're doing this education as well in the process? And I think Commissioner Nichols had his hand, and then Commissioner O'Sullivan.
Go ahead, Commissioner Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have been looking at the list of engagements that Elsa and the staff have at least initially put on our spreadsheet. And they do seem to be fairly dispersed. I think if Commissioner O'Sullivan were saying, let's make sure we have at least one, I'd be okay with that. But I think we're adding an extra layer that frankly, I don't think that we're going to get a lot of engagement or response as a result. I do think once we have a preferred map, consensus, that should be the subject of the public hearings that are called out for in the charter. But prior to that, I think we do outreach. I think we respond to groups that would like to hear more about this. We make it generally available and try and ensure that there's at least one of our listening sessions in each district. But I think we're adding a level of complication that frankly the public's not going to welcome. Particularly, there may be a few people who want to go to multiple meetings on this. I suspect that's going to be a relatively small universe of folks. So I think I'd rather we did the listening sessions. If I'm incorrect, and that happens pretty frequently, then we will get a sense that there is a need for an additional layer. But I just don't think that that's evident right now.
So I have a couple thoughts. So first is that the meetings that we're holding right now, we're explicitly ensuring that not more than 2 commissioners are attending. I would like to have a meeting in each of the 7 districts that all 5 commissioners attend before we come to a consensus on a single map. I think that I suspect if we don't do that, and we come up with a map, that we're going to get a whole lot of pushback saying, what are you guys doing? How did you come up with that? Whereas if we have a meeting that all 5 of us attend in each of the 7 districts, then once we arrive at a consensus map that we take around one more time, that people will have a better sense that we've really taken the time to ensure that each district's concerns are being taken into consideration. So I would at least like to see a proposal from staff that incorporates that timeline. And if we review that proposal and think that it's just too much for us to do, or is going to push back the date by which we're able to come up with a consensus map, then we don't have to go with that proposal. But I would like to see a proposal from staff that incorporates this, and I feel like I've asked for this before.
I'll ask a question of, when we go out to the charter required 7 public forums, those are district wide, and so far we're reaching out to like specific community organizations to host these meetings. The regular public forums are just, do they go through any organization, or is it just widely posted in a district? How do we get people to attend from district wide?
Yes, just to clarify, we were supposed to have the district forums with 5 commissioners attending between May and July. That was the proposal. And I don't have a specific timeline because we don't have the dates, but between April and March, we were going to have these different meetings with different community organizations. And then May through July, that's when the commissioners, 5 of them, will meet, and then we'll invite, and we'll make it to an invite open to the public. And so that's when we will space out at least one meeting between May and July at that point. Between March and April, to have like a public meeting with 5 of you, we can do it as we go along, and we can invite the commissioners to attend this event, but we don't have I don't know if we will have enough time to have a whole district to meet before May and July to do that.
Elsa, I'm happy to meet with you offline, and maybe we can go into more detail offline about exactly what I'm requesting if it hasn't been clear thus far.
I'd love to. I want to make sure that we're doing what you guys told me to do, and just so you know, the way that we're inviting the public to attend the sessions, everything's public on our website. We all are also utilizing all of our networks inside, newsletters, also our community engagement program, our every single space we have to invite people to these meetings. And the idea is to start creating this sense of this is what is coming, so we can invite people to the forums and we have good attendance with and people are informed and enough educated to come to the meetings with maps, with proposals, with ideas by the time we actually have a district forum.
That sounds good, Elsa. I think that we had agreed in a previous meeting that we would try to have in March and April these listening sessions, what I'm calling listening sessions, which you're doing right now with the community, and one public forum in each district if possible. And we were going to try to look at a timeline, but let's gather. I think it's allowable if Commissioner O'Sullivan and you and I got on a call and tried to better flesh this out and understand what we're each talking about. Does that sound good, Commissioner O'Sullivan?
That would be great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does anybody else have any thoughts they want to share on this? Any other commissioners?
I think my only thought on this is I think the additional clarity on the proposal from Commissioner O'Sullivan is worthy of consideration. mostly because it's a little hard to track with multiple thoughts going back and forth. But I do think we owe it to the public to have this like cemented and done within a reasonable amount of time. And then we need to be able to move on quickly and make the decision, hopefully either at the next meeting or at the very latest at the meeting after that on this schedule. So I guess my comment is that something that is reasonable and possible to put this to bed at the next meeting, at least on the schedule?
Sorry,
Yes,
I'm a little unclear about what you want to have, just to decide which format we're using and have that clear for the public by our next meeting.
Yeah, the format, and if there are those additional dates where we're taking a different set of maps for kind of more final-ish consideration, those dates should be set far in advance so people can plan maximum engagement around those.
Sure.
I don't want us to breadcrumb our engagement dates as we go forward. I think getting those done on the early side is really going to be helpful for the public.
Yeah, I think my understanding is that between May and July is when those official public forums are, and I'll call it the sort of extra public forum we'd be trying to do in this shorter time frame. And we're still doing it. And the idea is that we would not have one consensus map that we're taking to the public. Does that make sense? That's my understanding, that what we've been talking about is that between March and April that we would try to do these broader listening sessions with different community groups and a district specific conversation with the 4 maps. Then we would try to get down to one map based on that, and then take that out for the more sort of official public or next stage public forums. The question is whether really between March and April, we can manage so many meetings, and Elsa's madly scheduling these. And, you know, we have, there's all that to consider too, that there's what's, you know, feasible for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offline conversation for Commissioner Sullivan and yourself, Chair, as well as Elsa, can help narrow down what we can fit in terms of timeline and capacity, because I do agree with the intent of engaging the public before we go forward with the proposal around the maps. So it'll be helpful to really figure out how we can fit it in our plan.
I mean, really what we're talking about is the difference between community meetings with specific community groups, a community of interest, say, versus something that is just broader for a district, an entire district. That's my understanding. Okay, well, we'll have a conversation and try to narrow this down sooner rather than later, for sure. If there's not more on this, let's move to the GIS update.
Hello, commissioners. Nice to see you again, and hope you're doing well. Just 3 items to talk about with you today, and then I'm happy to take any questions. There have been a couple requests to redo the PDFs of the 4 consultant-driven proposal maps in order to add more detail as far as street labeling goes. I wanted to let you know that that is going on right now. There are some drafts, in fact, waiting for me to look at. As soon as we're done here, I will go look at those, and we'll get those over to you so that they can be uploaded to the website. So hopefully that will help with that, those that are looking for more street labeling on those maps. Also, the 4 consultant-driven plans have been uploaded to the interactive map. I wanted to let you know that right at this exact moment, again, I'm troubleshooting, draw something weird going on that website, and staff are back at headquarters working on that issue, but it should be resolved here sometime in the near future, meaning this afternoon. Commissioner O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I was wondering if, and maybe maybe it's already there, but are the 4 consultant-driven maps available on Dave's Redistricting app, so that folks can sort of, maybe we need to touch base with Dave about that.
Yeah, I think the last statement is true. I think they could be. I don't know if they are currently, but I believe that is within the realm of possibility. So I will work with Elsa to talk with Dave at Dave's Redistricting about that. While we're talking about Dave's Redistricting, I appreciate, I got a report back from Mary Ulrich on her presentation 2 weeks ago. And some of the feedback that we got from that resulted in a few small changes to that form. Recognizing that it is a bit of a cumbersome process, but also that there are other ways to contribute comments to you all, including drawing something on a piece of paper and scanning it and sending it in, including verbal or text comments, but that some people do want to take it to that next level and submit their own plans, and we do want to try and make that as easy as possible, but you know, it goes with the territory that will be a bit more of a complex process. Okay, so we talked about the interactive website, and then the last thing I wanted to bring up were individual work sessions with you. And we have received some communications. Commissioner Nichols, I think we're going to be able to accommodate you at 3 o'clock today. We'll get that, yep, clock's ticking. We'll get that finalized as quickly as we can right at the conclusion of this meeting. Commissioner Nichols is the first one to get this far, but that opportunity is there for each of you, and we'll be happy to work with you on that. Any questions I could answer?
I have a question, but I think I'll just email you while I'm scheduling, and about, yeah, I'll do that offline in the interest of time. Any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, I think we have a redistricting law update on state legislation, Senate Bill 5583.
Hi, everybody. Granted, we have 5 minutes left, I believe, in this meeting, and I'm about to drop, hopefully not too big of a bombshell. Don't worry, it's not a bombshell. This is about Senate Bill 5583, which I had brought up briefly in my initial legal training. This has to do with how to count incarcerated individuals, as well as individuals who are involuntarily committed, as well as individuals who are detained in the juvenile system. Our current system is that they would be counted in the address where they are incarcerated or detained is the address which they're counted. The new bill that just got passed last week is now going to count them at their last stated address. And that information has been, I'm trying to summarize this in 2 minutes. That information is currently held with the Redistricting Commission, the State Redistricting Commission. So we will be working, DON, as well as my office will be working with the Redistricting Commission ASAP to try to get those new numbers. What that means for you is that there's a possibility that the district lines are going to need to change to account for those new populations and to reset those levels so that each district has equal population. One thing that you may want to think about is whether you want King County GIS to incorporate those new numbers into those 4 initial proposals that they have already developed for you, or whether that is information that you want to just consider individually as you are working on coming up with a consensus to a new map. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what you want to decide to do as a commission. So that might be an item for discussion at our next meeting, how you want to incorporate that information. I think it probably makes sense, Elsa, for me to also provide an update on where we are at getting that information. And then Dennis, just while I have you here at the meeting, I think it also makes sense for DON and myself, if needed, to meet with you separately to make sure that we have a plan in place for you to get those new numbers.
Thank you, Ms. Schneider. Yeah, we're aware of the legislation. We've had some discussions about it internally as it regards other King County work items, including ESJ projects. So we will be happy to talk with you.
Great. Commissioner Nichols?
Yes, what is the status of the Senate bill?
I'm sorry?
What's the status of the Senate bill?
It's passed. It's awaiting signature by the governor.
Thank you.
And what's the timeline for actually getting those numbers?
So that's a good question. The answer is we don't know.
Okay.
The way that the bill was written, it anticipates the information being conveyed to us from the Redistricting Commission at the same time as the census information. But as you know, we already have the census information.
Right.
So we are going to use our charm and our powers of persuasion to get the State Redistricting Commission to get us those numbers as soon as possible. But again, they already have that information. So it's just a matter of contacting them and working out how to get that information.
I mean, I think that would impact how quickly, you know, it's a bit of a timeline thing of how quickly we could incorporate it into the four maps that we have, but we can await the information and make that decision at the next meation.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I interrupted you, Chair.
No, go ahead.
I also just want to clarify that this doesn't necessarily affect legally any legal obligations we have. You can still work with the timeline you have with under the charter. It should be absolutely fine. If you want to include the data and reincorporate it into those 4 proposals, you can also, but this doesn't necessarily throw off the work that we have to do. It might change how you want to do the work.
But we could incorporate even if we didn't include it into the 4 maps, it could be considered as part of our decision of getting to one final map.
Correct. That's what I mean. So the numbers do have to be considered. Legally, we have to consider the numbers, but we don't have to go by law. We don't have to go back and redo those 4 maps if we don't want to. So that's for you to decide. You can always, the final map proposal, the requirement is that the population of the largest district doesn't exceed by more than 1% of the population of the smallest district. And so the new numbers will affect those measurements. Yeah, that's the thing to be considered.
Do you know how much population we're talking about? Numerically? No idea.
I have no idea. It could be negligible or it could be substantial. I really don't know.
Right. So that matters too. Does somebody else have their hand raised that I cannot see that would like to speak in the last moment here?
Well, so Madam Chair, at the beginning of the meeting, I think you mentioned the possibility of seeing if there were still individuals who weren't able to give public comment at the beginning who wanted to, and it appears that there's at least one member of the public who does have their hand up. So I don't know if we wanted to reopen public comment or if that was or to ask them to appear at the next meeting, but that's up to you.
If the commissioners have, I had originally set out 90 minutes. If people can stay, I'd like to open it up for public comment again. If anyone has an issue of staying on a few more minutes, please speak up. Okay, let's hello public. Who do we have for for public comment? We'd love to hear from you.
So Joanna Cullen has her hand up.
Yes. So I think you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. So mainly I wanted to say, as a member of the public and somebody who's working in a community, like on your redistricting events, I only see really 2 events for March. And one of the reasons why Roy's comment is so important in terms of having the district-wide meetings is that I don't know necessarily all of the meetings you're having, or at least I don't think I do. And what the people are saying within like my district, right? And if I'm trying to advocate for something in my district, I'm more likely to be effective, or my group is, if we know what other people's concerns are, or if somebody's, advocating for something different, then you can sort of compromise, or you can understand that somebody has a different idea. If you don't have a district-wide meeting, you never get to know, is somebody not liking or they have a different reason for not wanting what you want. I mean, it's always important to sort of know what's going on within your district. So I think it's important to have those district-wide meetings, because I only see 2 redistricting events on your thing for March. Does that make sense?
That does. Thank you. I don't want to use up your time if you have more to say.
I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Elsa, that raises a question for me of whether you have a bunch of meetings that are being scheduled rapidly, whether those are all posted on our website for folks to see.
Yeah, they should be getting posted today, as we finished Monday with all our outreach from last week. So they should be going up, and they're all in our calendar.
Because at this point, there's you probably have a good handful, 6, 7 meetings scheduled, and you're continuing to schedule them.
Yes, that's like the next step. It's like a little chain of like confirming the time for sure, the Zoom information, and then we'll put them up on the website. Yeah.
Well,
thank you. And Elsa, I want to recognize that it's a lot that you're putting together. Thank you for that.
And so that I understand, are we also, are there also meetings that are being scheduled with organizations that aren't necessarily open to the full public, that are just organizational meetings that we have people attending? I mean, I think that's another distinction, right? There are some meetings that by their nature are open to the public, and there are some meetings that might be a specific organization that they want members of their organization to attend, but are not public meetings. Is that right?
Most of the events are public. We ask to see if they're open, especially if they're virtual. And most organizations say, yes, it's okay to share them as a public event, unless they tell us it's not.
So far, do we have any that aren't open?
I'm having conversations with some of them, whether they are, and they're discussing with their boards to make sure they want to open it up.
And so I'll note that there's another member of the public with their hand up.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Is there somebody else who'd like to give public comment?
I was invited to do it again, but I do not have my hand up.
Hi, I was invited to speak. Hello. Thank you, commissioners, for reopening public comment and giving me an opportunity to speak, especially with regards to the last point on the agenda regarding Senate Bill 5583. I just really want to encourage the commission to make the decision on how you're going to incorporate that data into the draft maps and into the information, the current template that's available on Dave's Redistricting, and all those materials available to the public, to make that decision to incorporate that information as soon as possible. I think one thing that I've talked about with my team quite a bit at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle is that the original draft maps were, or the original district council lines were created with no opportunity for public comment. And so to some extent, we had some concerns about there being, 4 draft maps that are meant to stay close to the lines, which I understand is a part of the charter. But, even with the charter, we've had some concerns about what that means for communities that have been historically redlined or required to be in certain areas of the city or pushed into different areas of the city, what that means with regards to equity in this whole redistricting process. And so I think as a commission, you really have a responsibility to take the opportunity with this new bill passage to incorporate that into as many of your materials and as many as your decision-making, tools moving forward from this point on, because that's going to be, I think, crucial to just recognizing the history of redistricting and also in discriminatory incarceration in Seattle and in Washington State. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you for that public comment. And I hope that we will be moving as quickly as we can to get the new numbers and include accurate population into all of our materials. Thank you for that. Is there anybody else who'd like to give public comment? Elsa, do you see anybody else on there?
No, nobody.
Okay. So our next meeting will be on March 22nd. At this point, we're not planning on having a meeting next week. We're going to give people time to participate in the public meetings, continue to schedule them. We'll have a conversation offline to get to clarity on the points we've been talking about between having an additional public forum. And we are 8 minutes over right now. If anyone else has any final words, speak them now. Otherwise, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.